What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Marc Stein of DLLS, of the Stein line, and the man who always knows what everybody's talking about behind the scenes. Marc, how you doing this late Sunday night?
Adam Mares, we're finally doing this on my clock. This is like 7 or 8 p.m. for normal people.
Yeah, you were up watching the Cowboys game, I presume. Is that what it was?
No. Come on. I thought you knew this was a Bills household.
Of course. Oh,
this is the Josh Allen household.
I forgot. So you got your work done earlier this morning. I got it. But we do have a great show for you because Marc Stein, we always ask, what are people talking about behind the scenes around the league, front office personnel, league personnel, everything else. And I know at least the answer to one of those, which is that tomorrow, December 15th, is the official beginning of trade season when all of these contracts are able to be traded. We're going to talk about why, just to give a little tease, why Marc Stein believes there will be a trade early this season, this offseason. There's a very unique
Monday or Tuesday. Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, I was going to give the soft tease, and then you came right in with the crazy one. Monday or Tuesday, tomorrow or Tuesday, there might be a trade in the NBA.
And it's actually Monday. It's actually Monday Eastern time. And as you know, the NBA runs on an Eastern time clock. So even though it's only 10 Mountain, it is Monday. It is Monday on the NBA's clock. So it is today. We very well could see a trade today.
I tried to soft tease it, man. You said, no. I'm putting it down Monday or Tuesday. I love it. We're going to get to all of that. We're going to talk about the NBA Cup in segment 1, though, and specifically the San Antonio Spurs. But I'm going to start. I told you I had a curveball for you, and this is just kind of a warm-up.
As always.
Just kind of warm up with me here. I've watched some really, really good games over the weekend in the NBA, including the Cup games. But there were some good games even tonight. But I just noticed a trend that all of the good games I caught this weekend, 4 or 5 games, all of them had a painful final 30 seconds. And I don't mean just slow, this or that. I'm talking multiple reviews, multiple fouls, fouling up 3, foul game, back and forth, timeouts. The last 30 seconds of a close game, I put this out on Twitter just 30 minutes ago, but there's no worse viewing experience in sports than the last 30 seconds of a good NBA game. And it feels like more and more teams are understanding how to take advantage of this and slow things down. Do you ever hear just any chatter about the league? Does the league have any concern with how painful the last 30 seconds of an NBA game can be?
I think they definitely have concern when the second semifinal of the NBA Cup, an event that means so much to them, and the Spurs and the Thunder are playing this absolute classic. And I was tweeting game of the season contender, and I was hardly alone.
Yep.
Everybody's just going on and on about what a great game this is. And then we had 5 intentional fouls in the last 9 seconds.
Was that all? It felt more like 50.
I mean, 5 in 9 seconds is pretty efficient. That's high efficiency, intentional foul. I mean, so in my experience, when there is this kind of discourse, and I agree with you, the chatter is the external chatter outside the league, fans, it's getting louder. That does tend to lead to just discussion. We're not even 48 hours removed from the semis, but and I will do more formal checking. I did not know this was going to be the curveball, or else I would have checked it before. But I have to believe at the next coaches committee meeting, the intentional fouling thing is going to come up. It has to come up because it just, you know, I do want to wax poetic about what a great game Spurs Thunder was,
And we will.
but
And we will.
the ending was not great, and
Yeah.
the ending did take I don't know some of a fraction of the shine off it, a portion of the shine off
Yeah.
it. I don't know if you're getting together with Legs later today, underline today. I'll be interested to hear what he says. I'm sure he's
Yeah.
got a rant about it. I mean, it was not. You're right. I mean, it was Lakers Suns tonight was an absolute circus at the
Yeah.
end, and
Warriors
I didn't get to.
Portland too. Warriors
Yeah,
Blazers tonight.
I
Same
didn't get
thing.
to. I didn't get to see that one, but yeah, the same kind of what was that reaction was happening.
Yeah. And so it's just, here's the thing, man. This always has been the case where there's a game every now and then that feels like a slog at the end. But I almost feel like every team has learned that to make it a slog, if you're up 3 points in the final seconds, it's actually in your interest to turn it into what it is. So now it feels like every close game is going to follow the same script where you just almost want to tear your eyes out because it's going to take a half hour. But that's not the conversation. We love the sport here. So I'm pointing out
No, but
we're
it
nitpicking
is.
here.
It's important. You're not wrong. It's important,
Yeah.
and it's like like I said, I do think it will be talked about. Do you bring in measures like FIBA does, where the FIBA's you make these kind of fouls in the international game, and it's just different penalties for that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it will. I'm pretty confident that this will become a thing at some
Yeah.
level. How quickly it's addressed, we'll have to see it. But
Yeah.
I think
Save the
you are
sport.
more than justified to bring it up.
It's just one of those things. I love the sport so much, and I just feel now, like felt tonight watching Golden State Portland, when it got within 3 points, and Steph missed the shot and everything else. I go, man, the ending of this game is going to be painful, isn't it? And sure enough, it was. But that is just a little appetizer, if you will, because what really happened and what we're really going to spend the next part of this segment talking about was very good NBA Cup games in particular. I mean, the Knicks get the win over the Magic, 132-120. The Knicks we're going to talk about a little bit, 18-7. This is a big deal for them now, being on the big stage, having the record that they have, winning 5 in a row. But the story of the weekend was the San Antonio Spurs. First, it was announced that Victor Wembanyama would make his return. He missed the first cup elimination game. He was back for this one, and boy, did he make a difference, because he helped lead in his 20 minutes on the court, helped lead San Antonio to an insane upset win over the Oklahoma City Thunder, snapping their 16-game win streak. So I have to imagine a lot of the chatter in the NBA this weekend was about Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs team that suddenly just stamped themselves as extremely real. Not just a fun little contender, but extremely real.
Yeah, look, the Spurs went 9-3 without Victor Wembanyama while he was recovering from the calf strain. So I think that was our first indication that we really need to take this team a lot more seriously. But I actually think that second game, especially Spurs Thunder, the 24-1 Thunder, losing that game. And remember, the Thunder lost the cup final to Milwaukee last year. It's one of the few things that's gone wrong for them in the last 12 months, a storybook 12 months for them. So I think the Thunder came to Vegas, as hungry as you can get for something like this in
Right.
December, 6 months away from the finals. I don't want to overstate it, but I do think the Thunder really wanted to win this thing. And I think last night's game was probably as watched a game from a league-wide perspective. I think any good team, any team with designs of trying to get out of the West is looking at that thing. And look, San Antonio was incredibly impressive. I mean, it was a very intriguing strategy to keep Wemby out of the entire first quarter. Wemby on this very strict minutes restriction had an incredible impact. But most of all, the Spurs played really good defense.
Yep.
The Thunder at times looked rattled. And had the Thunder won that game comfortably, all the discourse would have been 25-1, unbeatable. The season is over. Just crown the Thunder repeat champions now. But just with one glorious comeback from 16 down, and by ending the Thunder's 16-game winning streak in December, I think the Spurs have given this whole season a bit of a new complexion because they've shown they need to be considered a factor in the West too. Now, I don't know that the Spurs can consistently play the kind of defense we saw in last night's game, but look, that was the first time since the finals that the Thunder had their preferred starting five, their best team. San Antonio gets Wemby back. Like, that was until the intentional foul dominated ending
Right.
was a really, really, really good game, fun game, and gave the NBA Cup a much needed jolt of credibility and gave everybody a reason to watch.
Well, it was, if you did watch, it was a fantastic game, and it was fantastic because it was played at such a high level. This wasn't a game where it was like sloppy and ugly or this or that. Both teams, I thought, it was impressive the level of play they were able to sustain for 48 minutes this early in the season. Clearly, the game means a lot. The stage means a lot. And you just mentioned that Oklahoma City looked shaky a little bit in the clutch or in the pressure moments. I thought even more than that, because there were some things I thought packing the paint, having the rim protection, it made Shea settle outside the perimeter a little bit more, made the ball a little bit more awkward when it was swinging around. But I was actually more impressed with San Antonio than I was, concerned about anything Oklahoma City did. I was more impressed with San Antonio's clutch shot making and playmaking. And it wasn't just Wemby, it was Vassell. It was a lot of guys who came up big in high pressure moments. And that's why this game is so important to me. We know the Spurs are good. To your point, they beat the Nuggets. They've had some good wins under their belt over this last 2 weeks. But it was the poise against that juggernaut of the Thunder in the clutch with the pressure on that stage in Vegas that stood out, because I would have guessed they would have needed to stumble through a few of these, and they didn't. They passed it with poise and intensity.
And this was look, the Thunder are the reigning champions, but they are still young. The Spurs are very young, and the Spurs really wanted to be seen as, no one's going to say they're an equal, but as a contender. The Spurs wanted to stamp themselves as a legitimate Western Conference contender. They took the game very seriously. They saw this as a huge opportunity to announce themselves to the whole league, and I think they did. And again, I don't know if they can consistently guard the way they did last night, but if they can, the Western Conference, we've all been saying it. The Thunder are in a tier by themselves, and then the Rockets and the Nuggets are in that next group.
Throw the Spurs in.
The Spurs are basically saying, no, we're part of that group with Houston and Denver. And I think the way they played, and if they can finish this thing off, let's see what they do Tuesday night against the Knicks on the NBA on Prime. And what if San Antonio wins that game?
Yeah.
The West has been taking a bit of a beating early in the season because the bottom 5-6 teams in the West so many of them have been in chaos, and includes teams like the Clippers and the Mavericks, who were expecting to do something this season. Memphis with all its injury woes, the Kings. There's been a lot going on in the bottom of the West. And so the conference as a whole has been, absorbing no shortage of criticism, but maybe the Thunder have more competition, there's more teams that can give them issues at the top than we realized.
And now you look at it and say, you throw the Lakers in that mix too, because they are 18-7. They're right there. And I just look at it and I say, okay, the Thunder, I think, are going to be a 1 seed. You talk about the Nuggets and Rockets. I still think they have an inside track at the 2 or 3 seed or whatever. But then you look at it and say, okay, but now there's a 5th team. So that 4 or 5 spot, if the Spurs maintain this level of play, you're looking at a date with Oklahoma City for one of those teams I just mentioned in the second round. And that's why I think they make such a big deal. If you are a 4 seed now, that means you're likely, if this maintains, that Spurs team is not an easy first-round matchup. You got Victor Wembanyama. You've got all of the different young players that they have. That's a tough first round, and then congratulations, you won that. You go to your second round. That's why they're so fascinating. But to your point, they had Wemby come out of the gates this season, just incredible. Best he's played in his career. Then he goes down, and De'Aaron Fox returns, and all the young guys start to ascend, and they're playing great. And the question is now just how good can they be? So is that the conversation? I mean, I know we've been having this conversation. You've been hearing it. But after that one, did you notice a noticeable uptick of people saying, hey, man, why not the Spurs? Why they look just as good as all these other veteran teams?
Well, look, everyone today on the day after is talking about Wemby, just the impact he had in only 20 odd minutes. Some of the comments where he's just
Well, I
like,
want to ask you about that.
openly just kind of, throwing shade at the Thunder, talking about ethical basketball, pregame, asked by my Amazon colleague Taylor Rooks about his matchup with Chet Holmgren and their rivalry, and Wemby's like, well, our focus on the court is Shea. When you have to give so much help on the MVP, anybody's going to be tough to guard. So Wemby is just like,
he's wilded.
He's inviting scrutiny and living up to the moment. But you always ask me, what are people talking about? One of the major talking points in the first 25 games of the season, and it's such an uncomfortable subject, it's calf strains. Calf strains have been the scourge of the NBA this season. That's what had Wemby sidelined for 12 games. Is he past it? Is he going to stay on the floor from now through the end of the regular season? Was that the only long-term injury absence that he has? Because if it was, if the calf issue is truly behind him, if Victor Wembanyama can play 60-something games, I mean, you see the impact he had in just 21 minutes.
Yeah.
So obviously the Spurs, it's stating the obvious, but you kind of have to say it again because he was that much of a difference maker. If they can just keep Wemby on the floor, the Spurs are going to be a factor in this Western Conference playoff race. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Well, let me ask you pointed, though, because Victor Wembanyama has had some very interesting and curious comments lately. He talked about MVP. He kind of, I don't know if he was trying to poke the bear, but a lot of players will talk around that. He said, it's not Jokic. He's only offense. I think it's Shea or Giannis. He's asked about Chet Holmgren, who you just mentioned. He made the comment about ethical hoops, and that was not like a slip of the tongue, Mark. You saw the quote. It was, he kind of took his time, smirked a little, and said, I love the way we're playing ethical hoops, like that. It just, he's always seemed like a little bit of an outsider, just of the, of whatever the crew of NBA superstars is. He seemed like a little outsider, but right now he seems to be in this point where he enjoys being pointed and making these comments and declaring. He said he wants to be the MVP this year. I'm the best player in the league right now. He seems to be wanting to stir the pot a little bit.
And look, from when you're sitting in my seat, athlete candor is always welcome. So I am not going to sit here and now chide him for, if he wants to talk his talk, please do. I will be in the audience ready for all of it. And look, he can back it up. He clearly can back it up. This is year 3. They hadn't been to the playoffs yet. This is rarely talked about. It's so uncharacteristic for the Spurs. The Spurs actually have the second longest active playoff drought in the league. Charlotte's been out 9 years. The Spurs have not been in the playoffs for 6 seasons. So this is year 3. This is the time to make it happen. But Stephon Castle has taken a leap. De'Aaron Fox, as you said, looked great during that stretch when Wemby was out. Dylan Harper has gotten very good reviews in his rookie season to date. Cornette has given them something with Cy. They have a very nice team. One of the things I reported in my Sunday best around the league notes, the Spurs, if the Bucks reach the point at some point between now and the February 5th trade deadline, if the Bucks reach the point that they're going to field external offers for Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Spurs, like the Thunder, like the Rockets, are not expected to join that chase. The Spurs like what they have going. They like the team they've built. They like what their future holds for this group and the assets that they have to be able to add to it. But Wemby is not lacking confidence. I think we can clearly say that that despite the various injuries that have kept him off the floor, despite the fact that he has still not played one playoff game, the man is
Yeah.
not short of self-belief.
Well, here's how I am. I agree with you. As somebody in media, I want players to be their true, authentic self, and I know they're always couching what they're about, what they should say, or what they want to say, because they know how to be perceived. So I like that he is coming out and doing this. But if I were an NBA player, I would look around and say, "Hey, easy, young fellow. Like we gotta." It would give me a little edge going up against him to say, "Man, who does this guy think he is?" But at the moment, who does he think he is?
No,
A guy that just
knowing Jokic the way you do you think he even pays attention to this kind of stuff?
I don't think Jokic knows. I think Jokic does a very good job of insulating himself from these types of things. It's crazy, but I honestly don't think he sees these types of comments unless they're right in front of his face, and I don't think this one is. Real quickly, on the other side of this, though, you got the Thunder. Is there any conversation about this maybe being a concern? They haven't played a lot of clutch games. They've looked invincible. They've had a soft schedule, but is there anything to this of like, hey, man, that was proof of concept. A team just beat them. They didn't shoot bad. They didn't do this or that. A team just outplayed them on a big stage.
I just don't know how you can muster concern when you're 24-2. And I know people bring up the strength of schedule, including a certain producer who may or may not produce this show. First name James, last name Clark. But here's the thing: when you have the average nightly win margin
Yeah.
that the Thunder have, to me, you can't really talk about schedule when you're just blistering everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
they won 16 in a row and lost one. They were 24-1. They were on a 79 win pace. Now they're on a 75 win pace. So concern, I think, would be stretching it. But that this is what a cup is supposed to be. And that's why you always ask me about the cup, and I always tell you, once we get to the final 8, once it becomes a true knockout competition, this is not a 7-game series. It's a
Right.
one-off cup semifinal on a neutral court. Anything can happen. Anything did happen, and that's what it's supposed to be. That's what a good cup competition gives you. So, again, concern, no. They
Yeah.
just got Hartenstein back. They just got Case and Wallace back. So like they had their team. It was the first time all season they've had their team. I don't think anybody is feeling too worried about the Thunder too concerned for them.
Yeah. All right. Well, if Adam Silver was hoping for a matchup in the finals, I have to imagine one of the top choices he would have had would have been San Antonio versus the Knicks. You get the big market Knicks, and you get Victor Wembanyama. And the Knicks, 18-7. I think that this is sneaky big for them. Like, you always wonder, who is it big for? What team can really get a lot out of this? The Knicks had a bit of a shaky start. Quietly, they're 18-7, won 5 in a row, 9-1 in their last 10, and here they are on the big stage. They're the 2 seed. They have the 4th best record in the entire NBA, and I kind of feel like the season has worked out perfect for them so far. They've worked through their kinks under the radar, and now here they are ready to announce themselves as one of the contenders. What's the conversation about the Knicks now that they take the big stage?
Look, I think given the state of the East, you see the way Cleveland is just continues to scuffle, scoreless in overtime, lost to Charlotte tonight. The East is there for the Knicks taking. It is. They know it. And again, winning this, no one is going to equate winning the NBA Cup with winning a championship. But I think Knicks players are acutely aware of the fact that this franchise has not won it all for more than 50 years. So they've been to the finals in 94 and 99, and they made the conference finals run last season, but they they haven't won anything in a long, long time. So I think winning this is a statement of intent. And I think you're also right with, I think Knicks Lakers would have been Adam Silver's
Sure.
dream NBA Cup final if he really could have controlled it. But Knicks versus Wemby Spurs is not a terrible consolation for the NBA. And there will, again, Tuesday night, There are going to be so many eyeballs on this because, again, Wemby in himself, Wemby is a draw all by himself with the kind of show he put on with a minutes restriction on Saturday night. And yes, I mean, the Knicks, 1973 was the last time they hoisted the championship trophy. So, if they win, there will be a hoisting, and there is a trophy involved. So, I think I do think there is significance here.
Yeah. Do you feel like, real quick before my last one, and then we're going to take a break, but do you feel like this has been a good cup? This is year 3. There have been some marquee games, some big time games. Do you feel like it's been a good cup so far?
Yes, I mean, like I said, from the final 8 to now, yes.
Yeah,
the group stage, I will eternally say, I wish the group stage was more cuppy, if we can use that as a made up word.
What does that
But
mean? Like more condensed? Because it's kind of spread out over a month or something.
Well, it's just, look, I think we've kind of gone over this before. The NBA feels like it has to use the format where they use regular season games, counting twice, because it's the only way to keep the schedule as close to what it is and not make it even longer, even more grueling for its players. And whenever sticklers like me come at them and say, but a cup is supposed to be completely separate from the regular season. It's supposed to be one-off knockout games all the way through, not just at the end. The NBA's retort always is, this is year 3. Give us a chance. You're comparing us to competitions in world soccer that are literally more than 100 years old. Give us time to build into something. Give us time to start NBA Europe and maybe work in teams from NBA Europe. So if you have the patience that maybe I don't have, to let them build this thing into more of a top to bottom cup, I think, it's going to be very interesting to see, how far away is NBA Europe? Will those teams get worked in at some point? Is there another thing is just, it's the same 30 teams that we're always looking at. Will that change? Is
And
there
you
any
really
way
want this to happen?
Well, I mean,
Barcelona, Real Madrid.
Or, I think, if I'm not mistaken, actually going to Serbia and seeing where Jokic is from changed your life. If you went to Serbia, and saw a cup game where just a lower level team knocked off Partizan or Red Star, if you saw that with your own eyes and saw the reaction, I think you would come back saying a lot of the same stuff that I say.
You know what? It's interesting. You talked me into it. If I get a trip to Serbia out of it, I'm all for your idea, Mark. So you talked me into it. All right, let's take our break.
Let's both go.
Man, we got it done. All city trip to Europe. Let me know in the comments, by the way, what you think of the cup. Did you enjoy it? Are you excited for Tuesday? Is it getting better? Is it growing on you? We're going to take a break, but on the other side, Marc Stein promises there'll be a trade today. He said it at the top of the show. We'll get to that on the other side. You guys know that moment, the one when you realize you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach, on the roof of your car, at a gas station 3 states away? We've all been there. But right now, this is why Shady Rays has changed the game. They've got sunglasses that are made for real life. They're seriously good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And here's the wild part. If you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. We got, 2 weeks before the holiday season? If you order these now, you can get them as a gift for Christmas. They'll arrive for you before Christmas Day. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. They've got all different types. You're going to want to check them out. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code AC35 for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Also want to tell you guys about Underdog. Whether you're into basketball, football, hockey, or any sport in between, today was a very good football day, especially for my Denver Broncos. Underdog is the best place to get in on all of the action all season long. Playing Underdog is so easy. You just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. If you're getting into football, it can be catches, yards, anything like that. For example, Bo Nix today, you kind of look at his numbers, say, okay, how many yards are you going to throw for? I think it's going to be more than that. You get your picks right, you could win up to 5,000 times your your investment. So it's really incredible. It's easy to play. You can download the app and use promo code ALLNBA to score $100 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code ALLNBA. Underdog. Make picks. Win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, or Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, or Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. All right, back here, final segment here of the weekend edition of the All-NBA show. Me and Marc Stein. So you teased it at the top. Trade season begins today on the Eastern Coast, but Monday the 15th it begins, and you predict there will be a trade right out of the gates. Why?
I'm glad this time you said predict. Before the break, you said promise. I like predict.
I was just teasing you.
I like predict better. And here's the reason why. December 15th, as you noted, it is what is recognized in front offices all across the league as the start of trade season. And the reason for that is because the majority of players who sign contracts in the offseason will now be trade eligible. Not all of them. There are various conditions that make some, like Herb Jones is not trade eligible till January 14th. Jonathan Kuminga is not trade eligible till January 15th. So it's not universal, but 90-ish% of the league now is trade eligible as of December 15th. But the reason that a trade of some sort, one to anticipate it by Tuesday at the latest, the new CBA that came in July 2023, there's an important rule in the new CBA that says anyone who is traded by December 16th, Tuesday, December 16th is the key date, is eligible to be repackaged in a subsequent trade on deadline day, which is normally when a player is traded, they cannot be packaged with another player for 60 days. The February 5th trade deadline is less than 60 days removed from December 16th. But we saw this last season. To remind you, the Warriors traded for Dennis Schroeder on December 15th. And the reason they did that on December 15th was because if it didn't work out, they wanted the ability to make another trade involving Schroeder, and that is exactly what happened. Schroeder was in the Jimmy Butler trade and then eventually made his way from Utah to Detroit and played out the rest of the season with Detroit. But that was not the only one. Miami traded Thomas Bryant to Indiana on December 15th. So last December 15th, we saw two trades. And look, I cannot give you a 1 zillion% guarantee, but the expectation is that this is going to become a regular thing, and we will see a trade or two between now and Tuesday because teams want that flexibility to be able to reaggregate players they acquire in a potential trade that's at the deadline.
So let me ask you this. My first inclination when you say that is, if I see a team making a move tomorrow or Tuesday, very early on in this trade season, I should, assuming it's not a huge trade, right? You're making a big one. But if you're just a small trade on the margin, I should assume that that team is likely, or at least considering making a bigger splash later on in the year.
You have to keep it in the back of your mind that player could get traded again, because use the Warriors as the illustration here. The Warriors made the trade for Schroeder, and obviously if the Schroeder move worked out, they might have proceeded differently. But Schroeder was just not a good fit in Golden State. It just didn't work. And so it became pretty clear pretty quickly that the Warriors were going to move him on because of this new rule that gave them the ability to do so. So yes, I think if whatever trade or trades that we see in the next day or two, provided there is action by December 16th, I think you do have to keep that in the back of your mind. And then if there's no trade by Tuesday, I let you down in a big way, and I hope that doesn't mean I'm banned from next Sunday's show.
Get him out of here. I'll tell you what. I will tease you about it though next week on the show. That is that
That's
fair? At
fine.
least I'll
That's
tease
fine.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
if that
Yeah.
happens.
No, that's fine. And I will, and if there is no trade today or Tuesday, I will certainly endeavor to find out why I was
Wow.
wrong after being told to expect one. And look, I think one thing we can certainly keep an eye on is Chris Paul. We know the Clippers, the Clippers sent him home, but behind the scenes, the Clippers have said they're going to work with him. They're going to try to get him somewhere. It's so interesting. In the summer, if you remember in the summertime, the Bucks, the Mavs, the Hornets, these were all teams that registered interest in Chris Paul. And at the time in the summer, Chris Paul was telling teams, I want to be in LA. I've been away from my family for the last 5-6 years. They've stayed back in LA while I've played for all these various teams. Chris Paul's message in the summer was, I don't want to be any farther away from LA than Phoenix. Phoenix was as far away as he was
Wow.
willing to go. Now, because I think things went so poorly in because things went so poorly with the Clippers, I think no, he's now open. He'd be open to a variety of destinations. I think he just wants to go somewhere that he can have a role and put together a final chapter that he's happy with, because obviously the way his second stint with the Clippers went is not how he wants to go out.
Do you think there's a market for him? I mean, because first of all, you just talk about a market for any player. It's going to be difficult. You need the salary, you need all these different things to line up, roster spot, everything else. But it has been tumultuous, here lately. Are there going to be teams vying for Chris Paul?
I do think, again, it's not clear where yet. Like, it's not
Yeah,
clear
of
what
course.
the landing spots might be, but he's on a minimum. And look, he did have a great impact in San Antonio last season. I am curious. Like, I don't know if he'll ever take this question on, but I wonder, does he wish, should he have stopped after last season at age 39? He started all 82 games for the Spurs. I do wonder, does he wish that he would have just stopped there? Because now he has to go find this happier ending that obviously the Clippers was anything but a storybook
Right.
ending.
So last one I have for you on this trade front, and that is, I assume there are some teams you look around and I say, okay, I think they are teams that would look to make trades at the deadline. I think Detroit's one of these teams that it makes sense for me. They're, in my opinion, they have a lot of assets. They're very good at the deadline, but they don't seem to make sense for me as a early trade team. But then there's other teams, and maybe you disagree, but I would look at Golden State and I would say I would not be surprised. They seem to me once again like a team that might need to set the table for a bigger swing later on. So they might be an earlier one. Are there teams that you think are more likely to be in the mix for some of these table setting trades early in the year?
I mean, look, we've been trying to pinpoint him. We've been trying to nail it down. I mean, I don't have a specific scenario that I can give you and say, yes, this is the one. Like, if I'm remembering this right, I think if we rewound a year, I think the Schroeder to Golden State stuff I think that dialogue had already started even before
Mm,
December 15th. The way I remember it, there was a bit of an inclination. This time it's been harder to pinpoint, but look, there are so many curiosities going into this trade deadline. Obviously, it starts with Giannis. Will we reach the point that the Bucks actually show a willingness to hear pitches from other teams? Detroit, the signaling out of Detroit has really been they don't want to do something drastic. They kind of
sure.
like the organic build that they've been on. And if they do something, would it be smaller in nature than some big, like they've been talked about as an Anthony Davis destination? I really
Yeah, I
don't
don't see
see that.
that.
I don't
I don't see
I
it.
don't see them as an AD team at all, even though that's kind of been thrown out there. Golden State for sure. They had much higher hopes for this season than the way it's gone. So, I mean, Sacramento, the Kings are routinely talked about as, they've got, DeRozan's available, Zach LaVine's available, Keon Ellis, his minutes, he's playing 7 fewer minutes per game
Doesn't make
this
sense to me.
season under Doug Christie than he was last season. And the 3-and-D market, there's just not a ton there. So how willing are the Kings to move Keon Ellis? There's believe me, we're gonna do this. We do this. We have these meetups every week. There will be no shortage of trade possibilities for us to go through. But what gets us started? I must confess, haven't been able to pinpoint it yet.
Well, it'll be interesting for you next weekend, this weekend coming up, just because I do anticipate, as you said, some kind of move, and it'll be fun to kind of look at that and try to read exactly what it could mean for all of the different teams in the league, but specifically the ones that do act early. And it's just an early part of the season for front offices to be busy. Meanwhile, and this is my last question for you, and we can wrap up today's show, but I have to imagine a lot of the coaches, maybe not front offices, but coaches have enjoyed this week off, basically. I know most teams had 1, maybe 2 games, but I know here in Denver, they got 5 practices in the last week. Is that some of the conversation too? Look, the Cup's happening. Those teams don't get rest, but everybody else is getting a nice little pre-All-Star break.
Yes and no. I think everyone, like you said, that gets practice time certainly welcomes it, because practice time has become extinct in the modern NBA. But there is this sense that the first 6 weeks of the schedule is so challenging before this NBA Cup induced break comes that you hear just as much talk about how tough the early part of the season is before you get to this break. So yes, I think teams are happy for grateful for the practice time. Same thing, where I live in Dallas, they actually had 3 full days of practice. Much needed. But the schedule continues to be a topic of discussion, even though the league pushes back on it. The league is citing facts and figures that say there's no difference. The schedule is no different than it was in the first 6 weeks before the NBA Cup. But perception-wise, teams see it differently. And so that is a pretty significant conversation point as well. And one last thing I forgot to mention, just going back to the trade stuff. Remember, the G League Showcase, it starts at the end of this week, Friday,
That's
Saturday,
right.
Sunday, Monday in Orlando. It's not exactly like baseball's winter meetings. Like, that comparison gets thrown around a little bit too readily. It's not really the same. But look, a lot of decision makers do go, and it is a play. All 30 teams will have reps there, and it is a spark for trade talk. There will be trade discussions that start to get a bit more serious there, depending again on how many top decision makers actually go. But that is another significant event on the calendar that we'll get into more next weekend. But it does serve as a trade season spark. Trade season starts on the 15th, and then 2-3 days after that is the showcase. Every team in the league has the bulk of its front office there, so things are going to start to percolate, no question.
You get everybody in a room together and they start talking. So, all right, cue that outro music there, James. Mark, this was fantastic. You got me excited for the week now. I wasn't that excited for it. Now I'm very excited to find out what happens. And of course, I'm going to be picking your brain, saying, what does it all mean? What does it all mean? In the meantime, though, Legs is back on Friday this week. Me and Jason Tim, we're not doing a show tomorrow, but we are going to do one on Tuesday and on Wednesday, because tomorrow there's some great games. I don't know if you've looked at the schedule. Rockets Nuggets is a fantastic one. That one's on Peacock. Raptors Heat is a great game, and Pistons Celtics. So we said, you know what? Let's skip Monday. Let's do Tuesday instead. So we have 3 great games to break down. He is Marc Stein. You can find him on the Stein line, DLLS. Great stuff. Everybody, hit that like button for us on the way out. We'll see you Tuesday.
Silly like the mayor.